It is I, Zhao the Artist, and that might be the loudest I get during this video because we are going to be doing something a little bit different. Today we are going to mellow out and talk about some background paintings I did for a short film. Hit the below 5 beats, we got some painting to do. Beginning at, well, the beginning, I decided to ease into the painting process by recreating this photo of a ramen shop a few times as practice, before moving on to painting the backgrounds for the actual film. At this time, while I was doing this sort of warm-up exercise, I was focusing on a few things. One was keeping in mind the speed at which I was able to create these paintings. For context, I did all 3 paintings in one evening, so I think I nailed that decently well. Secondly, I was really trying to figure out how to finesse my brushstrokes, where I convey the most amount of information with the least amount of brushstrokes. Going for a very impressionistic style, often relying on implying form and detail whenever possible. Last but not least, I was hoping to get more of a handle and spend some time experimenting with some brushes that I had recently bought. By the way, the brush pack I got is probably the best value brush pack you will ever find for ClipStudioPaint. It's got over 800 brushes for only $15. The guy who made this is an absolute mad lad, and if you want to experiment with way more brushes than you will realistically need, the link will be in the description. Oh, and if you're curious of the name of the brush that I use, it's called the Block-in Bracket (rectangle tilt). Something else that influenced my painting was this tutorial by Sinix Design, where he talks about what's called a distillation painting, which to my current understanding is getting the light and dark values down, ensuring the composition and form of the objects are conveyed properly before going on to any further steps in your painting process. It's quite an interesting video, and I would highly recommend you check it out along with his playlist on design theory, which I have also been watching recently. Alrighty, enough ramen shop practice. On to the actual paintings that will eventually be used in the finished film. It's worth mentioning I didn't just start painting these from scratch when I sat down to work on them. This is because I meticulously planned out the composition or layout in my storyboarding process, which you can hear me talk about in this video if you haven't seen it already. It was at this moment
that he knew. He fucked up.
When I sort of realized something. Coloring can be very tricky. I was doing black and white paintings for practice, which only requires you to focus on value and not anything else, which in some ways is difficult because it's more limiting, but in other ways is way easier because you only have to focus on one aspect of the painting. That said, I did work things out to the point where I was happy with the result. A technique that helped me was looking up photo reference to see pictures of what color palettes are used in actual Starbucks coffee shops and copying various colors from those. Now, I'm not actually going to show you the reference pictures I took because they are taken of a Starbucks, which is kind of close to where I live, and you should be able to figure out the rest. But yeah, my main method of choosing colors was looking up photos for color palettes in architecture that was of a similar or the same subject matter that I was painting, and also just plain old experimentation, trying out different colors until I find one that I like. If you want to study color theory further, I would highly recommend this video by Draw Like a Sir. It's a great starting point, and looking back, it was very fundamental in my development as a painter. By the way, the style I'm going for is from these short films by Tony Capitoa. These paintings have enough information to convey the scene clearly. They have some nice vibrant colors, but they also exhibit an undeniable roughness with the solid blocky brushstrokes and an overall feeling that it was painted quickly. The reason I'm emulating this look is because these background paintings are for a tribute film, which I've already spoken at length why I'm paying tribute to Tony Capitoa in another video. Speed was a high priority when making these paintings. I believe I averaged about 3 to 5 hours per painting. I don't actually keep track like that of specific hours, so take those numbers with a grain of salt. They are an estimate. However, I do know I finished all of the final backgrounds in 4 days, which is just over 1 painting a day. I think this is because of the 80s anime style cars in the first painting, which are more detailed than most of the other subjects I painted. Speaking of 80s anime cars, I would like to mention the Dragon Ball references. One of the cars is based on an illustration drawn by Akira Toriyama himself, and the other is inspired by a car from the original 80s anime. This is as good a place as any to say that someone actually did tell me the "We love you Toriyama" message written in Fox kanji, well meaning well, could feel a bit off. The logic being because the Fox kanji font takes away the symbol's original meaning, and by arranging them to look like English reduces the kanji to an aesthetic. After giving it some serious thought, given the fact that I wanted the font to look weird, that was the intention. It was supposed to be a strange looking sticker on a car. In addition to the fact that I am actually learning Japanese myself, I'm going to keep the Fox kanji in. I know that kanji is part of an actual language and isn't just a weird font, and I'm sure that you do too. Because of this, I am comfortable misusing the symbols in a creative way to give thanks and remember someone whose work has reached millions of people, including myself. On a different note, if you don't get the joke about the coffee shop logo, go ahead and look up the history of the Starbucks logo. Before we close out here, I have one more thing that I don't really know where to put, so I'm just gonna throw it at the end here. I made a really rough animatic, like really rough, just the storyboards timed out. It's part of the process, so I added it to the documentation playlist. I don't really have any commentary about this, and it's exactly what it sounds like, but if you want to give it a look, now you can. Alrighty, that is almost everything. If you think any part of this project looks cool, and you want to be notified when the film is eventually finished and published on my channel, you can check out my Project Lifecycle newsletter, where you can get notified each time a new project begins or ends. Nothing more, nothing less. That's all I have for you today. Peace!